Welcome to the LSU Sports Insider, brought to you by the journalists at The Advocate, NOLA.com, and the Times-Picayune. Perryn Keys here, hanging out with Edward Scott Rabalais. Look up, Rab. Say hello. Pay attention. Pay attention. Class has started.
I'm doing some research.
Kids these days in their phones.
I know, man.
I know. I'm sorry.
You gotta get these youngsters out of here. Reed Darcey here, our LSU women's basketball beat writer, along with Edward Scott Rabalais, who has seen many a women's basketball tournament in his day.
I was here when the lane was the shape of a key.
That's a true story. Well, true that the lane used to be in the shape of a key. Not that Rab was actually here.
My dad played on the lane shaped like a key, yeah.
Oh, we are here. We got plenty to talk about, everybody. Spring practice is underway. LSU baseball drops 2 of 3 in Starkville. And, of course, the LSU men's basketball team is in the NIT. They'll play at home on Tuesday. But we are going to start, of course, with the LSU men's basketball tournament. Matter of fact, it's going to be an almost entirely all women's sports discussion here today on the LSU Sports Insider. We are here every Monday and Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever the finer podcasts are found. We are also here on all our social channels, of course, every Monday and Thursday, specifically our YouTube channel, LSU Tigers on NOLA.com. You can catch us there live every Monday and Thursday. If you don't catch us live, you can catch us there after the fact on that same YouTube channel, so please subscribe. Please subscribe to The Advocate if you have not already. Now is the time to do so if you never have, or if you haven't, or if you need to resubscribe, because we've got everything you could ever hope to have under the sun going on these days. We've got LSU Gymnastics maybe within, about 3 or so weeks, Rab, for the championships, the NCAA championships. Is that right? Okay. SEC meet is coming up this weekend, and then followed, of course, by the regionals, and we'll see if LSU can make it through. They're a legitimate national championship contender. LSU softball, of course, took their first loss this week, but they are still obviously very much looking like a national contender this season as well. LSU baseball is underway, and LSU spring practice. All that stuff's going on. So please stay up to date with it. Please subscribe to The Advocate. We've always been known as the #1 destination for LSU sports, for LSU sports coverage. So please stay with us. And if it's just too much for you to get your arms around, you can get all the headlines sent to your phone, to your desktop, to your inbox with the LSU newsletter. Please subscribe to the LSU newsletter. That way you don't have to go searching all over the universe for all the latest LSU news and headlines. Please subscribe. You go to theadvocate.com/LSU newsletter. And of course, to subscribe to The Advocate, you go to theadvocate.com/subscribe. We are brought to you every Monday and Thursday by Champion Wealth Strategies. Champion Wealth Strategies is a national financial services firm specializing in the capital markets, securities, insurance, 401ks, and college and retirement planning. Our broker-dealer is LPL, financial member FINRA SIPC. As you know, investments are not FDIC insured, may lose value, and have no bank guarantee. To learn more, go to championwealthstrategies.com and plan like a champion today. So, gentlemen, we are Selection Sunday has come and gone. The LSU women's basketball team, boy, I got to tell you, I'll get you guys' 2 cents on this, obviously, but in terms of brackets and draw and selections and so on and so forth, it does not appear to me that Iowa or LSU or UCLA or Kansas State, or for that matter, Colorado, that they got what you would call an easy draw. Any of these teams, they're all in it together, all in the Albany 2 bracket of the women's tournament. And so they will open up this first weekend. LSU is a number 3 seed. They will open up first against number 14 seeded Rice. That's at 3 p.m. Friday on ESPN, a little Friday matinee in the PMAC, and I'm sure it will be jumping. First things first, just Rab, tell me what you think about this draw.
It's a tough one for all those teams that you mentioned, and it doesn't. You didn't mention even Louisville, who's the 6th seed, who's coming here. They've got a tough first game with Middle Tennessee. Some people are always saying, "Hey, that could be an upset," a 6-11 game. So it's tough. I was kind of hoping, but not expecting, that the selection committee would try to position the team so that LSU, South Carolina, Iowa, UConn or USC, whoever you prefer, would all have a path to meet in the Final Four. And obviously now LSU and Iowa, if they advance that far, would make it to the Elite Eight. But it's far from a guarantee for any of those teams. I think you have to expect LSU to make the Sweet 16. And same for Iowa and UCLA. And there's a lot of chalk that holds in the women's tournament. But at the same time, it appears that there are more contenders this year than ever in the women's game. And Kim Mulkey said there will be upsets, and I think that's absolutely right.
Reed, tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think when you I like what you mentioned there, Rab. I think if you look at the overall picture, there's probably about 10 to 12 teams when I look at them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run to the national championship and could win it. It's a really difficult draw, and I think what makes it really hard is because Colorado is the 5 seed, and we saw what kind of trouble they gave LSU in the season opener. A lot of time has passed since then. The two teams are very different. Since then, Colorado has stumbled a lot. They've piled up some losses. They're up to 9 losses now. But when you look at them, they're like, okay, this is a 5 seed, and you saw what they're capable of doing, like what they're capable of doing to a team like LSU in the season opener. I still think they're a bad matchup, but there's a chance that they sort of avoid each other all the way to the Elite 8. We're sort of getting ahead of ourselves there, but yeah, these top 5, top 6 teams, I think they're all going to beat up on each other by the time one of them makes it out to the Final Four.
So many, I'm sure you would agree, Rab, for so many years, certainly the past, depending on what time period you want to ascribe to this thing, for so long, but particularly in the past, seems like 10 or so years, there were, in a given year, maybe legitimately 5 or 6 teams that you felt like could win the national championship.
I thought you could say 3 or 4, but yeah, 5 or 6 at most.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was certain years it was UConn, like they were just going to steamroll everybody, and recently it looked like it would be South Carolina was just going to steamroll anybody. You go back and Baylor, of course, with some of Kim's teams that she had over there. The one, of course, with Brittany, they went 40-0. It seemed like you had about maybe 3 to 4 to 5 legitimate powerhouse programs that could legitimately win it, and the rest of them were you could throw them all up in the air, and whichever one falls first might be the one that lands in the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. But this, to your point, this looks like a much more wide open. And I'm glad you brought that up, Reed, because that's exactly right. Colorado, the notion that Colorado is a 5 seed,
yes,
that pretty much says it all, because it was very clear, and you were there, from start to finish with this season, and we all saw that in Las Vegas in that season opener. Colorado looked like a team that very much wanted a piece of LSU and got a piece of LSU. So, yes, it's going to be interesting. We'll be back later on this week to break down LSU versus Rice. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you that I've seen a lot of games in Tudor Fieldhouse this year with the Rice women's basketball team. I have not seen them play. I don't know a thing about them, frankly. But on the other side of the bracket, 4 teams coming here into Baton Rouge. LSU and Rice, obviously, they'll play on Friday, and then Louisville and Middle Tennessee will play later on Friday. And those the winners of those two games will obviously go meet in the round of 32. Louisville has got a net ranking of 23. Middle Tennessee, to your point, Rab, a net ranking of 39. Which is pretty salty for an 11 seed, and obviously played in a weaker conference, and so that brings your strength of schedule down a little bit. But I found it interesting. Louisville this is not your sort of. We all know Jeff Walz. He's been a great coach. He's speaking of teams that have been contenders before, and we'll get to Hailey Van Lith here in a moment. But Louisville, I found it interesting. Not a vintage Louisville team, 246th in the nation in field goal percentage defense. Teams are scoring, they're shooting 41.7% from the field. And you mentioned that they're prone to more turnovers maybe this year than any Louisville team in recent years. So that'll be listen, Louisville's going to be, as they say, highly motivated. Should they win, should they beat Middle Tennessee and go on and play LSU, presumptively play LSU in the second round. But it's not a vintage Louisville team, and Middle Tennessee looks like it could be a live dog. So I don't know. Just tell me what you think about this draw here, specifically the local draw here in Baton Rouge, the 4 teams that are coming in.
Yeah, Louisville, they went, Hailey Van Lith took them to 2 Elite 8s and a Final Four, in her 3 seasons there. So they're capable of making that kind of run. I don't think they're, the prototypical 6 seed that was sort of coming here and, the host team would beat up on them. Yeah, they're tough. They've got 9 losses, but they've got a couple wins over a couple big teams. So it's not going to be easy for LSU to get past them, and we know about Rice. It's probably going to be a blowout there. But Louisville or Middle Tennessee, the type of team that can give LSU some trouble. But I think the added element of Hailey Van Lith playing her former team is pretty interesting. It's going to be pretty fun. It's going to add a little extra spice to that second round game, and it should be interesting if we get to that point.
It's one of the little subplots of the tournament. At one point, and we may have mentioned this on the podcast, you saw some bracket projections that had Baylor maybe coming here as a 6 seed to play a 3 seed at LSU, and obviously that didn't come to pass. But Louisville and Hailey Van Lith, that's interesting. And she saw immediately. I looked at her
the video reaction was
she
great.
Just funny. Doubled over like, I can't believe this, and they're like giving her. And Kim said, yeah, everybody was kind of
Kim pointed directly at her almost as soon as the
she was sitting next to Monkey, and it's just like. She's like, I can't. I'm sure she couldn't believe it. I mean, it's one of those things that happens in the tournament. Like we're seeing, Trev Alberts is leaving Nebraska to be the AD at Texas A&M, and in both tournaments, Nebraska and Texas A&M are playing in the first round. But of course, they both have to get there. Right. And LSU's going to be a heavy favorite to beat Rice. I think they won the American tournament.
They won the American the first year in the American. They won the tournament.
At 19 and 14 overall, so LSU would be a heavy favorite there. But Louisville's no lock, and I'm sure we're going to hear plenty of that from Jeff Walz when they get here for the press conferences on Thursday. But can I just say I'm personally happy about the setup. Friday they play, Sunday they play. In between is the SEC Gymnastics Championship in New Orleans. And like a lot of fans out there, I'm sure people have tickets for both events.
And LSU had not so quietly hoped for that, frankly, because they figured that was going to be the best setup for them.
There was hope of that, it doesn't have to be who knows if it was actually a consideration, but it was nice that it worked out that way for the fans in particular.
So let's talk a little bit about it. Before we move on to sort of breaking down these games and breaking down where LSU is right now, I was going to ask either of you two fine gentlemen just to sort of give us a 5-second preview of the top 4 teams in this region. Iowa, top seed. We know enough about them. UCLA. LSU we know about, obviously, in Kansas State. Anything you guys want to just sort of throw out there about those 4 teams? And, again, just how difficult this is going to be for LSU to make it out of this region.
Real quick on Iowa, we know about them. We saw them play last year against LSU. Obviously, Caitlin Clark. They are Caitlin Clark. They sort of go as she goes. But really what LSU tried to do in the national championship game is try to, prevent Iowa's second best player from beating them, because they knew Caitlin Clark would get 30, 40 points, but they really tried to shut down Monica Sonano, who was their best player last year. She's gone now, and they sort of kind of replaced her, kind of in a sense. Hannah Stuelke is, she's capable of scoring. She's capable of adding that extra 10 to 20 points a game that they need. But I think Iowa overall is probably a little worse than they were last year and a little less dangerous than they were last year. But obviously they still have Caitlin
Interesting.
Clark, so.
As a 1 seed, if you still feel that way.
Yeah, I don't think they have a little less talent than they did last year.
Okay.
But obviously they still have Caitlin Clark, so they can go deep. UCLA, Lauren Betts, she's 6'7". She's tough. She's one of the best players in the country. I think she should be healthy for the tournament, so that's going to be tough for LSU to handle, particularly her size. Down low, we've seen LSU struggle against size like they did against Colorado, and a little bit against Camila Cardoso, who's also 6'7". So that's UCLA's strength. That's sort of how they play. Kansas State, and similar size. Ioka Lee, she's really their anchor. She's really their center. So she's tough. She's physical. That could be a challenge for LSU. And then, like we said, Colorado. I think Colorado would still be a bad matchup for LSU because they've sort of got 2 of the things that LSU struggles to defend. They've got a lot of size, especially around the rim, and they've got guards who can dribble penetrate. Jalen Sherrod gave them fits, in the season opener, and so she's still there, and they're still capable of that. So we'll see. It should be interesting. I think all these teams are really good, and it's going to be really difficult to escape.
It would not be a surprise to see any of these teams in the regional final.
No, not at all.
Going back to the point, our original point, which is this seems like this is a loaded bracket.
It is, and it's the people on ESPN yesterday said right away this is the toughest of the 4 brackets, and I'm going to take a minute to say. the NCAA selection committee once again underseeded LSU. They underseeded them last year. They should have been a 2 seed. They should have been a 2 seed this year. They had a net of 8. They finished second in the SEC and run up the SEC tournament. 2 of their 5 losses were to the number 1 overall seed. They only lost. Of their losses, there was only one was to a team that didn't make the tournament. It was Miss State. Miss State got left out, but Auburn's in, and of course Colorado is in their regional. So it's it's not a big difference between 2 and 3, but it's worth remembering that LSU's toughest game of the tournament last year was in the Sweet 16 against number 2 Utah. They won by 3.
I was just about to. I mean,
fortunate to win.
I cannot remember the young woman's name, and I apologize, but she was something like an 88% free throw shooter. She hits either one of those 2 free throws. That was LSU's magical season is not nearly as magical. It would have come to an end right there in the Sweet 16. Rab, you've seen enough of these. Incidentally, you've seen enough of these tournaments that this is true, men's, women's, anything, really in some ways any postseason in any sport. But sometimes it helps to have a little good fortune on your side as well. So it's not always necessarily being about the best team. It's about being the best team that day and getting a little help too.
It has to be to win 6 games against the quality of teams you're going to play in the men's tournament or the women's tournament. There has to be some good fortune that goes your way. Rarely do we see. I remember one year LSU lost to UConn. It's in 2000. And it lost to them in the Elite 8. And LSU gave them their best game, and it was like a 15-point game. That was as close as anyone got to them in the entire tournament. I think it was kind of like that for the LSU men in 2009 when they lost to North Carolina in the second round. But that rarely happens. Usually you're going to have one game where fortune smiles on you, and the ball has to bounce your way or not bounce your way for your opponent. Look at South Carolina. They're the number 1 overall seed. They're the favorite. They should be. They're the only undefeated team in either tournament, and yet they were fortunate to beat Tennessee. Tennessee hits 2 free throws.
Right.
Or the refs call a double dribble on Wiley coming up the court before they fouled her at midcourt, and or Cardozo doesn't bank in the 3. They defend her, and they have a loss, which obviously is not the end of the world, but shows you how things can go in tournament play. So you got to have some good fortune on your side, and LSU. Some teams got cleared out of their path last year. Number 1 seed Indiana lost in the second round to Miami.
And incidentally, I was going to bring up the Miami game.
Carolina.
Yeah, the LSU Miami game. That was a rock fight too. If Miami had come with their best game that night, LSU might not have made it through.
It was a grind.
Yes.
By the way, Miami looked like they were the last team left out of the field.
They didn't make it.
Yeah, they were very close, and they didn't. Some people had them come in here to Baton Rouge, but they didn't make it.
This is the LSU Sports Insider, brought to you by the journalists at The Advocate, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. You know where to find all the writers' great work. That's at The Advocate. Please go to theadvocate.com and subscribe. To do that, you go to theadvocate.com/subscribe, whether that's print or digital. Please get a hold of all the LSU news. You can stay up to date with all the LSU news that's going on with our LSU newsletter. To do that, to sign up, you can go to theadvocate.com/LSU newsletter. We are here every Monday. We're not here every day. That would be it would be a long week. We are here every Monday and Thursday, especially now with everything that's going on campus. We are here every Monday and Thursday on the LSU Sports Insider on all our social channels, specifically the YouTube channel LSU Tigers on NOLA.com. You can catch us there live every Monday and Thursday. If you don't catch us live, you can catch us there after the fact. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever other finer podcasts are found. And of course, we are brought to you every Monday and Thursday by Champion Wealth Strategies. Please go to championwealthstrategies.com to find out more and plan like a champion today. So Reed, I wanted to obviously you spoke with Kim Mulkey yesterday at the selection show. We were just curious to know. We know a little bit about Last-Tear Poa and her status. We don't know clearly just yet about her status. She's obviously dealing with what we assume is a concussion, hard hit to the back of the head during the SEC tournament when she fell to the floor. Angel Reese, we know, had been dealing with a swollen ankle, sprained ankle, whatever you want to call it, which she sustained during the SEC tournament. And then, of course, Mikaylah Williams, who only played in the championship game with plantar fasciitis. And they've been trying to do the best to manage that. if you would just, for as much as we know right at this moment, if you would just sort of reset everything in terms of where the Tigers stand from an injury standpoint.
Angel Reese and Mikaylah Williams are going to be good to go. I think they're going to play 30-plus minutes, in the tournament. I think they'll be full go. I think they'll be ready to be normal. Poa's situation is a little more fluid. Kim Mulkey didn't say definitively yesterday whether or not they expect her to be playing in the tournament or not. But based on what she said and based on what Poa said yesterday, she put out a video on her Instagram sort of updating where she was in her recovery. It sort of seems like she is working toward a return, and she is going through that concussion protocol, clearing the next steps, and trying to get to a point where she can ultimately play in the tournament. Kim Mulkey said she's starting to do some light work on a treadmill. I believe she did that over the weekend, and then she's also progressing to doing more individual workouts, and that could come this week. So those are the steps of the protocol. I don't know exactly what the steps are, but you start with like some light treadmill work, some walking, some jogging, and then once you clear that, then you go to individual workouts, and then you go, you can play 3-on-3, 5-on-5. So it's sort of like a step-by-step process, and it seems like she is clearing those steps and she's advancing through the protocol. We might not see her this weekend. I don't know for sure. I think we'll find out later in the week. But she is working toward a return, and assuming LSU gets out of these first two rounds, we might be able to see her play in the Sweet 16.
Let me say real quick. I spoke to Last-Tear after the selection show yesterday. Mm-hmm. She was there with her parents who flew in from Australia to be with her after she was injured, and she moved well. She sounded good. Like Reed said, she's making progress, but I don't think anyone really knows, when she can come back. Maybe she can play Friday, maybe she can play Sunday, maybe it would be in the Sweet 16. But eventually they need her back. I mean, if they're going to get to Cleveland in the Final Four, they need her back to because guard play is not everything in the NCAA tournament, but it counts for an awful lot. And they need her right at the point, letting Hailey move to the 2 guard, creating that rotation that they've gotten better with over the course of the year. So I think we'll see her back, but might they try to get through the first round game? Yeah, without her. Yeah, but the second round against Louisville, might try to trot her out there for a few minutes.
So
that's my opinion.
And first and foremost, it's going to be up to the medical staff. They're going to make the final call on whether she can play or not. They've got to clear her, obviously. Yes. Rab, my question to you actually was going to be, can LSU get it done with 7 players? Let's back up and start and just get through this first weekend and say, can LSU get it done? Can LSU get through this first weekend with just 6 players or 6.5? If Danae Kent plays extra minutes, something like that. Can they get through this weekend with just 6 players if Poa can't go?
Yes, they can, because they have so many players who can just put the team on their back and give them a great game. Obviously, Angel Reese and Anissa Morrow they're almost. You can almost count on them getting a double-double each game. Hailey Van Lith, we've seen her offensive game improve mostly, through the latter part of the season. And of course, Mikaylah Williams, if she can play, she looked a little rusty, getting in that limited action she had in the South Carolina game last time. But as Reed said, she should be ready to go. This is what they've been waiting for. This is why they held her back. So yeah, they have enough really superstar players who can carry them. But then the hill gets steeper every time you go to another round, and Louisville would be no picnic with 6.5 players or 7 players. But Kent would have to give them some minutes if Poa can't go. And then of course you come into players playing with foul trouble or getting in foul trouble. So it's that's why I wrote today in my column. There's in Monday's paper and online that danger is the word for LSU. They're dangerous. Iowa and UC, as we're talking about it being a tough regional for LSU, Iowa and UCLA and those teams are not happy to see LSU in their regional. But there's danger for LSU too, because this is a fragile team because they lack so much depth, and another injury or a it's remarkable they did as well as they did in the SEC tournament with Poa getting hurt in the semifinal, and the state of play for Williams and for Reese. But it's you need to be firing on all cylinders, because like I said, each round just gets a little more difficult to win.
Do you expect this is a question for either of you two fine gentlemen, would you expect then, how much more would you expect in terms of contribution? Let's say if Poa does play, and if she doesn't play, how much more in terms of contribution would you expect from Janae Kent?
If she does play, then I think we'll see Kent, but like sparingly, like less than double-digit minutes. If she can't, then yeah, Janae's got to play more. Maybe 12, 15 minutes a game or something like that.
Without Poa, Janae Kent's going to have to give him 15 minutes. With Poa, I still think they could benefit from throwing her out there for 5-10 minutes maybe. But I think LSU's going to have to rely on her a little bit either way. She played a little bit in the SEC tournament. She flashed some things. She hit a 3. It wasn't perfect. She committed a couple turnovers. Kim Mulkey gave her a quick pull early in the South Carolina game. But overall, she was solid and she held her own. And maybe Kim Mulkey saw that and she thinks, hey, maybe I can trust her a little bit more in the tournament. But we'll see. It's sort of like if. Like that 7-player rotation, it's been locked in for months now, right? Do you want to mess with that when it comes time to the tournament? I don't know, but she'll have to balance trying to, with the continuity there of sort of trying to get them a little more rest, a little more time on the bench. It's tough. But
if you had to guess, you think we're not going to see Poa at all against Rice. They're going to try to get by without her and play Janae, like you said.
I'd assume so. It's sort of like once she clears the protocol, I think they'll throw her.
She's either ready to go.
She's either ready to go or
she's
not. She's not going to be more ready. The further she gets from the protocol, it's sort of like she clears it and then she's good to go. So, I think once she clears it, I think she'll be good to go. It's just more of like when she clears it, which is a fluid situation.
It would be nice. I mean, here we are in a perfect world. I understand, but it would be nice, seemingly, if you feel like you could get, particularly toward the end of the quarter, end of the first quarter, second and third, fourth, that you could, or maybe not fourth quarter, but certainly first, second, and third. That's when you could maybe sneak Janae Kent in there in the last minute and a half. Particularly if one of the guards is in foul trouble, maybe because she can sort of take it to the next quarter and keep give the players a little extra rest, between quarters, but then also maybe keep them out of foul trouble as well. We won't know. Rab, you discussed the column that you have up at theadvocate.com this morning, starting Monday morning, but also. About danger, and we've spent much of this podcast talking about just what a difficult road it's going to be. So I've got to say I'm a little surprised. LSU has gotten pretty short odds to this point in terms of best odds to win the national championship. And of course, these numbers are going to fluctuate depending on where you shop. But I was bumping around FanDuel on Sunday night, and this was after the selection and everything like that. South Carolina, of course, is a favorite at -135. LSU and Iowa are co number 2 at +650. Listen. We understand that this is not necessarily their projections on who's the second or third best team. It's a lot of it has to do with the handle they're taking, the sports books. But I don't know. Just tell me what you think about that. It surprised me a little bit. I got to tell you.
First of all, it's amazing. There wasn't that long ago you couldn't find odds on the NCAA women's basketball tournament, much less see a lot of action on it. But obviously, it's something that's
it's
become
on now, baby. The handle's up for women's basketball.
And you can argue that the women's tournament is more interesting and more compelling than the men's tournament.
Well, didn't the ratings for the Big Ten championship, the women's championship, I'm pretty sure that eclipsed anything. It eclipsed Carolina Duke. I mean, what else does that tell you?
Yeah,
it doesn't get any bigger than Carolina Duke.
But I mean, why is LSU getting that? Yes, a lot of better. They're familiar with LSU. Star power, like we're talking about, with Angel Reese and some of these other players is a big thing. They're familiar with them. People are going to bet emotionally. But yeah, they've got players who can go off for a lot of points. And if they get 3 players in score 20 points in a game, you're done. They're going to beat you.
That's right.
And they're playing better defense and that sort of thing. So and then they have the experience factor. You have Poa in a reserve role last year, of course, but Angel Reese and Flau'jae Johnson, who started. Hailey Van Lith wasn't at LSU, of course, but she's made all these runs with her team. And Anissa Morrow is the one player, key player who has never been on this kind of stage really when she was at DePaul. But there's a lot of experience and not only experience but confidence that comes to the team. Angel Reese said after they lost in Greenville to South Carolina, teams need to be scared of, to see LSU, and that's right. I mean, it is. So I think that's reflected in the betting, and obviously the defending champion with these returning pieces gets some love, as well. But I think it's fairly accurate. I think you could make the argument that the winner of this regional that emerges is the biggest threat to South Carolina winning it.
And really sort of maybe to zoom out, because we really haven't maybe discussed this, and we should. Reed, I don't want to put words in your mouth or, again, lead the witness, but, we discussed last week after they finished the SEC tournament. It sure seems like they're playing their best basketball right now, and it sure seems like Kim's got them sort of in the with sort of playing with the sort of attitude that a Kim Mulkey team seems best at playing. Where they've come all the way around where they were the consensus number one preseason. Took their lumps. They weren't necessarily playing very well at times during the SEC schedule, and now they're playing better. Hailey Van Lith is on. Angel Reese, it seems like a decade ago that she was serving a suspension. It seems like that attitude is there, and now they're able somehow as the reigning national champion to be able to play the feisty underdog role. Am I wrong?
I think you're absolutely right. I think they are playing their best basketball this season right now. And if you look at the numbers, you isolate some of the numbers after they lost to Mississippi State. So that was the end of January. Mm-hmm. So really over the last 2 months, if you look where they rank in sort of offense and defense, their numbers are really right on par with where they were last year. Over the last, 6 or 7 weeks, they picked up those 10 straight wins. They played South Carolina in that 11th game where they lost. But over those 10 games, their numbers look maybe even a little better than they did all throughout last season when they really blitzed through the non-conference schedule and then blew out, a lot of the SEC teams. So, so it took them a while to get to this point. It took them a while to figure out what kind of team they wanted to be and for the new pieces to sort of figure out how Kim Mulkey wants them to play with each other. But now that they are all on the same page, you sort of hark back to the start of the season when everybody thought this is the unanimous preseason number one, most talented starting five in the country, most talented team in the country, at least 1 through 5 for sure. So, think back to that time, and you thought, what could this team theoretically do in March? What is the ceiling on this team? And think about where they are today. Have they gotten close to that ceiling? Have they sort of figured out the best style of play to bring out the best in everybody? I think we'll find out in the next couple of weeks. And I think if you look at the last 10 games, there's an indication that they have figured something out.
It is time. March Madness is here. LSU will be playing Rice, third seeded LSU versus number 14 seed Rice, 3 p.m. Friday in the PMAC on ESPN. That's not a mistake, incidentally, that LSU would be playing on ESPN on the first weekend.
Oh, no.
Star Power. Again, we go back to Star Power. So the journey is upon us. We will see how far LSU will get in their attempt to repeat as national champion. I wanted to... Before we get out of here, I did want to bring up two other fairly important topics or fairly interesting topics. First and foremost, the LSU gymnasts. They're coming down the stretch here, Rab. The SEC championships are on Saturday down in the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. LSU is in session 2, which is going to get underway at 7 p.m.
Right.
And that's SEC Network, I assume. I should know this, and I don't. But
no, I think it's I'd have to double check because the basketball tournament.
That's true.
Yeah. I guess it's on the SEC Network. It'll be in print or online. Don't worry about it.
But what listen, this is a team that's got the chance. It's got a chance. They posted another 198 score against North Carolina, 198 plus, and they look for everything to be a real threat and a real contender to Oklahoma, but. You got to get into. They're not going to miss the regionals. We know that. So I guess really that's the first question about the SEC championships is if you're Jay Clark, knowing that you're going to move on to the regionals and that's where everything really starts to matter. What are you looking for this weekend? What do you want to see?
Well, you want to see a continuation of the great gymnastics you've had coming down the stretch, and they've scored over 198 and 4 of their last 5 meets, and the other was right there, and a loss to Florida. Florida edged them out for the regular season title, but this is big. This is the championship meet, and so there's 2 championships, like in basketball, the regular season, and this is like the tournament championship. But this is arguably the bigger one, and it comes down to one meet. LSU is the top seed, even though they finished second to Florida because they had the highest NQS, the highest season average. So it's LSU, Florida, Kentucky, and Alabama in that evening session. There's a chance the other 4 could win, but there's really it comes down to those 4 teams.
Right.
And obviously, you want to continue the great gymnastics that you've had. Going into NCAAs, obviously each meet gets a little more important. The SECs, then a regional, then nationals, and they're on a good pace. I mean, they've stayed pretty healthy. They've gotten pretty consistent. When they just do, they had like a 49.4 on vault the other night, and that's a really good score. And you're like, they can do better, and they know they can do better, and that's how good they've been this year. So they're one of those national contenders. Of course, kind of like with the basketball team with South Carolina, you have another team in Oklahoma that's kind of standing in your way to trying to be the national champion for the first time ever. But they're really good. They've got their own star power too, with people like Hailey Bryant, the number 1 all-arounder in the country. It's going to be quite a show in the Smoothie King Center, because there's some other really good gymnasts. Raina Worley from Kentucky, Leanne Wong from Florida, Luisa Blanco from Alabama. It's going to be a fight, but when you have someone like as Hailey Bryant, she said 21 straight scores of 9.90 or better.
Crazy.
That's remarkable.
She's and again, scoring is highly subjective. It's not like putting a ball in a hoop or hitting a ball with a bat, but it's remarkably consistent, and she's been just tremendous, and LSU's got a great shot to win this meet. They won it the last time it was in New Orleans. The only other time it was New Orleans 5 years ago, and they're looking to do that again on Saturday.
One other thing, because you did have an opportunity to speak to her, Olivia Dunne, maybe she's going to come back next year, maybe not. You want to if you would just sort of reset that. She certainly doesn't need the money.
No. They have 11 seniors on this team. 11 out of the 22 gymnasts are 4th, 5th, or 6th year seniors here because of COVID years and injuries and stuff. And 8 of them can come back. That includes Hailey Bryant. That includes Kaya Johnson. That includes Olivia Dunne. And obviously, she like you said, she doesn't need the scholarship money or anything like that. She's the highest valued female athlete in women's college athletics, according to On3.com. But she likes the cocoon of the team, being part of the team, and they're a close-knit team. People are like, surely they're jealous of her and stuff like that. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of that with this team. There really doesn't.
She does. I mean, we've reported this many times. She does make it a point to sort of, spread the oats. The fruits of her NIL, bounty.
No, she does. If she puts it in her deals, like everybody gets something, like some apparel or a bag or something like that. And there's kind of 2, as Jay Clark has said more than once, there's kind of 2 personas here. There's Livvy Dunne, the young lady who's on a billboard in Times Square right now for Nautica, one of her new sponsors. And then there's Olivia Dunne, the gymnast, and they're kind of
who likes coming to the facility, coming to work, and being a teammate.
And because the world is so intense on it, you don't have to Google. You don't have to go back very far to Google something on Olivia Dunne that's online. She's in the she's a SI swimsuit model again this year, and all these things. And she also happens to be dating Paul Skeens, the former LSU pitcher. So there was a funny thing I asked her about that. I said, "Are you going to spring training?" She said, "No, he'll probably get called up pretty soon." I'm like, "That's probably true."
Yeah, no, it's not wrong. Yeah.
So I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility. She's only 21,
right?
And it's not like like she's I'm 24. I've done this for so long. She's so I wouldn't be totally shocked if she came back, but and she's performed better this year. She's and more frequently. She had a 9.975 on beam the other night in an exhibition routine. Now, there's no pressure.
Right.
They didn't need her score. They won comfortably against North Carolina, but it was still a tremendous routine. And it's like maybe she could help them out some more if she came back next year.
Well, particularly with all the presumed experience that you're going to lose off of this year's team. One other international celebrity that we should touch on, Canadian swimmer Maggie McNeil. She started her college career at Michigan, and while she was at Michigan, she won the gold medal for Canada in the Summer Olympics. over in Tokyo in the 100-meter butterfly. And so now she's at LSU, and you had what I thought was a really interesting piece up at theadvocate.com, accompanied with some fantastic photography, thanks to Michael Johnson, our staff photographer.
Yeah,
and
shout out to Michael. He had to work hard for those photos.
That's great. If you haven't seen him, check out these photos. They're fantastic. So, but yes, just to tell us a little bit about Maggie McNeil, who's certainly a celebrity back home and can just sort of walk around campus, as an anonymous student.
Yeah, talking about someone who's got kind of two personas going. In Canada, like she goes to the grocery store and people recognize her. Ryan Reynolds follows her on Instagram. She's heard from the Prime Minister, that kind of thing. But here, it's like, she's a swimmer. And these are not football players or baseball players or something like that. But she's trying to make history. Since 1956, when the 100 fly has been in the Olympics for women, no one has ever won it twice.
Right.
And she's trying to do that, and she's trying to break the world record. She swam 55:59 in Tokyo. The world record is 55:48. So she's trying to break that. And then she's probably said she's probably not going to LA. This will probably be it for her. But she's a very interesting young lady. She plays the violin. She said she just for fun. She's a stat nerd. I figured out pi in my head to 100 decimal points one time. It took me an hour. And she said she's written a lot of in the pool. And she said, I'm fascinated by swimmers because you only see the tip of the iceberg when you see a swimming meet. Mm-hmm. It's the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of swimming. The miles that you cover, to try to be a champion. And she said she's written like term papers in her head while she's swimming because she said they would drive me out of my mind just to do that. Mm-hmm. And we had a fun anecdote, like I said, balancing the tremendous achievements she's had and trying to accomplish with her somewhat anonymity here. She's taking a graduate level class at LSU, and the professor went around the room asking everyone, tell us your name and your goal for this year. And they got to her. She's like, my mother raised me not to brag. She's Canadian, so she's not very polite. And she said, Maggie McNeil, my goal is to make it back to the Olympics for the second time.
And win a gold medal.
A gold medal, break the world record. So, interesting story. And again, a shout out to Michael Johnson. He got in the pool with her and shot these underwater photos. And I thought he was just I stayed on dry land. Yeah. I thought he was just going to stick a GoPro from the side. No, he was in the pool with her and did a great job. And she was very accommodating, and Rick Bishop, the coach. And we're trying to do a regular series of features on people heading out to the Olympics. Oh, and speaking of women's sports, and we're talking the Olympics, Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss, the former beach volleyball players from LSU, have got enough points to qualify for the Olympics. Only 2 teams per country make it, and they're number 2 in the world. And so they will be going to Paris, and they're going to play in like the coolest venue.
Absolutely.
They're building a temporary stadium next door to the Eiffel Tower. So when you see it on television,
almost basically underneath.
When you see it on television, the Eiffel Tower will be in the background of almost every shot. It's going to be very cool.
Well, it's pretty interesting. Maggie McNeil, it was something of a surprise when she won gold in Tokyo. She even was surprised herself when she looked up. She didn't, she had to. You had it in your story, I know, but she had to squint because she didn't have her contacts in, obviously, and so on and so forth. So, but I mean, to your point though, Rab, she's got a tremendous opportunity because she was sort of. It was sort of unseen, unsuspected that she would win gold in 2021. And now she has just gotten better as a swimmer, and so she's sort of coming into her prime. And now that is going to allow her to have a very, very real opportunity to win gold back to back for the first time ever.
Yeah, that and maybe a relay medal. She won a gold and then 2 a silver and a bronze in relays. Mm-hmm. She cleaned up. She went to the Pan Am Games in Chile in October, and she won 7 medals: 5 gold, a silver, and a bronze. Most gold medals any Canadian in the Pan Am Games. So that's like a mini Olympics, for the Americas. And she's tremendous. And I think and she's enjoyed her time at LSU. She said, she went to Michigan first, as you said. She said, I never saw myself in the South, but she followed Rick Bishop here. He had recruited her to Michigan, and when he became head coach here, and she said she's really enjoyed her time here. So I think. She's kind of come and gone with a lot of people knowing her or meeting her, but I thought it was important to tell her story and someone else you can follow in the Olympics. And she's competing the very first day of the competition.
One among many Louisiana and many LSU-related athletes who are going to be in the Summer Olympics. Opposite, actually, of LSU and Louisiana always has a strong contingent in the Summer Olympics and not very in the Winter Olympics. Whereas obviously the Canadians don't usually have. I don't know how many 2-time gold medalists there are from Canada from the Summer Olympics. I need to look that up myself, actually. But anyways, she's going to be one of many who have a tie to Louisiana, who will be in Paris in 2024. So we are looking forward to that. A little bit closer to now, obviously the LSU women's basketball team. March Madness is here. It's time. It's go time. And so we will be paying attention to that. Obviously, 3 p.m. Against Rice in the first round of the tournament of the PMAC on ESPN. In addition to the LSU men, of course, they're going to play on Tuesday in the NIT here in Baton Rouge at home of the PMAC. And spring football going on this week. Obviously, softball is underway and ready to go. And, of course, the SEC gymnastics meet happening down in New Orleans. So there's plenty to get a hold of, plenty to take a liking to, and plenty for us to chronicle as well. So please stay with us. We will be here for everything and anything under the sun as it relates to LSU. Please subscribe to The Advocate to make sure you stay up to date with everything. Go to theadvocate.com/subscribe. Stay up to date with our LSU newsletter. You get all the headlines delivered straight to your inbox. You can go to theadvocate.com/LSU newsletter to sign up for that. And of course, this fine podcast, we're here every Monday and Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever other finer podcasts are found. And you can catch us on YouTube. You can catch us on all our social channels, but specifically the YouTube channel, LSU Tigers on NOLA.com. They're all there. You can catch us live there on Monday and Thursday. If you don't catch us live there, you can catch us there after the fact on that same YouTube channel. So please subscribe to that as well. And please remember Champion Wealth Strategies. We are here every Monday and Thursday. Thanks to Champion Wealth Strategies, our title sponsor. Please check them out at championwealthstrategies.com and plan like a champion today. The menu is full. We will be here for all of it. We will try to keep you satisfied with all of it. So we appreciate you all tuning in and following along, of course, and reading at theadvocate.com. For Reed Darcey, for Scott Rabalais, for Amelia Cotton behind the glass, my name is Perryn Keys. We appreciate you. This has been the LSU Sports Insider.